Hi, it's Rochelle, and today I want to go over my Trash Panda Ops, which is my version of OpenClaw, and what I've created with a custom solution. But we're going to focus on communication and how I communicate with my AI bots. Now, with OpenClaw has a gateway and it's always running. And when I originally set up my OpenClaw, the gateway was always disconnecting and it was a pain in the ass, couldn't get it to work. And if you watch my first video, you know I have reconfigured this whole thing and made my own situation. So I wanted to still take the same concepts, but because I wasn't running the open source OpenClaw, I couldn't do the exact same thing. So of course, my handy dandy cursor helped walk me through what I could do. So I am going to walk you through that today. Now, OpenClaw, one of the main things that it does is it allows you to interface in a way that you want to. So what you can interface through different chat interfaces like Discord, WhatsApp, Telegram, iMessage, Slack, etc. And if you know me, you know that Discord is my place to go because I can do free messaging. I was already doing things through Discord. So it seemed like the natural evolution just to move everything into Discord. So that's what I did. That's what I'm going to show you how to do. I have no idea how to do anything else. Shocking, I know. So, but if you want to figure out your own solution and setup, I mean, I'm sure your different IDE tools that can walk you through how to do so. But I'm gonna walk you through how I did mine. So, what I have is in my Discord, I have a server, and the server is OpenClaw Takeover, and you can see all of my different channels here that I have set up. And with it in my channels, you can see if I hover over a message, you can see this little circle where there's a bot that responded, and there's a dot, 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 and an app. But then I customized it to where it gives me a little custom emoji. You can see my little raccoon, my Patch the Trash Panda, and it says Patch Says. And this is where I wanted to give it a custom feel that I was talking to my individual agents, even though I am only having one bot in here because putting multiple bots in, it got kind of complicated with how I have to interact with it. But I wanted to feel like I was talking to just one or my different bots. So you can see it, Patch Says, if I go into Swordtail's channel, it says Swordtail says, you can see his little bot. If I go into my food, you can see Kate is here, and that is Pam from the Smart House movie. So you can see how all of that works there. Now, on the back end, what it is in the developer portal of Discord, I have a bot. Okay, this is my bot, and my username, I just put it as dot, dot, dot because I don't want to draw attention to the bot. I want it to feel like I'm talking to each of those agents. I gave it all the right permissions and invited it to my server. I have specific permissions for what it can access and what not, but my bot is now in my server. Now, when I interact with it, one of the things that with it using not an always on server or a gateway, and kind of hacking this is that I have to interact with it a little bit differently. I have to interact through slash commands, and I have edge functions that respond back in my database. And so it's going to receive the message and it has to send back a reply within 3 seconds, otherwise it times out. So I send a message, it replies thinking, and then it's able to send the full message back routed through the right agent, so that I get that little emoji and it says Patch Says. So my interactions have to be structured a little bit differently just because I need to make sure that it will actually work because I don't have an always on open gateway. But from my perspective, the setup was a little bit differently, but my interactions really isn't that different than interacting with an always on gateway. But I don't have to have a computer running 24/7. This is a serverless function. Like this just runs in a database, and this is Supabase. And it's a free version of Supabase that I don't pay for. And so it works out for me, and it works out pretty good. So let me show you how that actually looks in an example. Okay, so let's go to Nom Noms. And I'm going to do backslash. And this is how I interact. I have Kate. So I'm going to send a message to Kate and I'm going to say, what's planned for dinner tonight? And I'm going to send it. And here you can see Kate. This is where this message. So it doesn't look like I sent it. This is where it's a little bit different. So here is where it's a little bit different. Now, her timing's messed up. So this is an error. They say you're seeing it in live time. She said Saturday, March 8th. It's not Saturday. It's Sunday, March 9th. She says tomorrow, Sunday, you've got pot stickers planned. So I'm gonna say, Kate, what's going on with your dates? Whoop. Hmm. And so it responds with thinking. And she responds and she says, "Oh, my bad. It is Sunday. You have pot stickers planned." This is something I haven't figured out. Dates are kind of wonky, but this is how it works. But you can see I send a message to Kate and it responds. Kate says, "Here you go. Here's your info." I send a message to Kate and Kate responds here. Now, how this actually works on the back end. If I go to my database, my agents, I have different Kates here, and it's going to decide which Kate is it going to send to. Chatterbox, Money, Food, Life. And so I only want to interact with one Kate. I want to make my life easier. My slash commands, like I don't want to see Kate Life, Kate Money, Kate whatever. I don't want to do all of that. I only want one Kate. And so I have it route to whichever one that I am going to send to. And it knows that based on which channel I sent it to. That's the first thing is it's like, okay, based on the channel, well, you sent this to Kate Food. So I am probably going to send this to Kate Food. And it's going to use my interactive prompt and it's going to say, okay, here's it, Kate, and here's who she is. Here's the interactive prompt that we're going to send. Here's what Rochelle asked, and here is all of the information we need. Now, that information is going to come from a couple different sources, and this is where context comes into play. And so the context that comes into play is actually going to come from a couple different sources inside my database. We have a knowledge base here, which is just a RAG. And again, Cursor set this up for me because I was running into context bloat where it was costing too much per interaction. And it does a vector lookup of what's relevant to each of the questions that I was asking. So instead of sending all of the context for every agent, it's like, okay, here's the need to know for this. And so it really reduced my token usage. Remember in the beginning, I was spending like 150 bucks in a weekend. This using a rag prevented that, which was really, really nice. And so it will send like knowledge base and it will pick out the 5 key things and it will send that with that interaction. It will also, when I go to my Discord things, I have a two-tiered system. And that two-tiered system will be like, okay, can we answer this without sending our full amount of tools that we have available? Can we just do a query in the database in order to answer this? And if so, then we're not going to call a big LLM. We're just going to do this with a really lightweight LLM. We're going to do this really cheap. But if we do need all of the tools, if Rochelle's asking us something really complicated, then we're going to bring in basically guns blazing and we're going to go the big LLM. And so by differentiating that and branching it out, I was able to optimize on cost, which I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And so again, Cursor built all this out for me. How can we optimize these agent performances and make this work so much better? Now, it also sends in the recent messages. So you'll see here is I wanted history. And one of the things that people struggle with OpenClaw is that when a session starts over, it's like the agent just had their memory wiped, which essentially they did. So what I have is I have history where you can see that if I sort descending here, You can see here is these conversations that I had with my agent. So they always look at the past day and they have context of what have we been talking about. They can always pull in their past memory of what we've talked about. And that goes in with this submission as well. So what they're able to pull in, who am I? What have we been talking about with Rochelle? What's relevant things I need to know about my ecosystem? And then it kind of triages. Can I answer this with a small subset of tools and what I have? Or do I need to call in the big guns and I answer it with all of my tools available? And then I can respond and the bot posts back inside Discord and I follow my rules of how to respond. So this seems like a lot, right? And this all happens within a couple seconds. And it responds to me and it works really, really, really well, which is kind of cool. So that is how I interact with my agents, and I can go back and forth. So I interact here. But I can also go to my dashboard and I can see what's going on my dashboard. So this is my mission control for my OpenClaw takeover, and I can come in and I can see what's going on. One, my agents aren't showing on here. I got to figure that out. So again, it's always iterating, it's always debugging of what's going on. But if I want images, I do have images for all of these where I can recreate them. Oh, it's because it's for the past 3 days and it reset. That's why. I need to persist those. Note to self. But I can see my total spend and I can see my total events. I can see today's spend. You can see Rivet got a little wild last night. And so I woke up this morning and now we're troubleshooting this. And we're figuring out why. But you can also see on Kate here that Kate, I can see her spend specifically. So Kate Food is who I just talked to. And I can go in here and I can see how much each of those message costs. So I can see what tokens in and what tokens out. Like that message was 3 cents. And the message where she's looking at what we have planned was 0.008 cents. Okay, so less than 1 penny. And so I'm able to organize all of this. And I'm able to see the details here of what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I can really dive in and I can see the cost of everything. And the reason I have the cost is because I track what model they're using. I track tokens in, tokens out, and that all comes back to here. I have an activity log for everything they do, and I track all of that so that I am able to see here. And this is just basic database stuff and basic coding and organization of data. But it makes life really easy, and I'm able to see what they're doing. Now, one key thing here is I want you to look at the total events and I want you to look at how many AI calls and how many calls without AI. And this is something really important to me. And this is one of the reasons that I switched to a customized setup is because this is where AI is not always the answer. And I think in a world of AI, we love it, right? There's so many cool things that we can do, and that's fantastic. There are a lot of really cool things that we do, but there's also a lot of things that we don't need to do. There's just basic scripting that solves problems. And so if you're paying for API calls, you don't need to necessarily. Or you can tier it out and you can pull in AI when it makes sense. And so being able to see like all of these events that I've been able to organize that if I would have just used straight OpenClaw, my API cost would have been through the freaking roof, which is what happened. But being able to structure it like this, is it more work? Yes, it is. Do I have to troubleshoot? Like you saw things come up? Yeah, for sure. But is it worth it in the long run? Also, yes, I have more control. So that's something to think about as well. Now, I also want to show you one other way that I have this. So one other thing I did under for agent for my interactions is I wanted to be able to do voice just because I can. So what I did is I set up a Ask Patch. So this is on my phone. So I'm actually going to show you on my phone here. Okay, so this is my Ask Patch shortcut. And I have where I can dictate text, so I can talk to my phone. And it is going to have basically it calls a Supabase Edge function with a secret and the contents of my dictate text. And it's going to what basically call the Edge function. It is going to work through just like the normal slash command works in Discord. It's going to get the response, and then my phone is going to speak back that response. So it works just like a Edge command, or just like the Discord where I send a slash and or slash command and then it responds. It just reads it back to me. That's it. And so with this, it logs it the same way, but it feels like Patch is talking to me, and I don't have any or in this. I don't have any extra API calls. I don't have, it is a little bit, or it's going to cost the same amount to be, depending on what I ask. It's going to be tracked the same way, everything. The only thing is I'm asking on my phone. So and it routes everything the same way. I set it up on my actual phone where I used the action button up at top that I can talk about it. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to ask Patch, what should we ask Patch? Hey Patch, how much have we spent in eating out so far this month? So it's running and you can see up at the top, but oh, you can't really see that because it's doing a background thing, but it is running up at the top and it does take a minute. So it is not really fast by any means of the imagination. But what happens is if I refresh this,
We've spent $68.54 on eating out so far this month across two transactions, $63.07 at Strang Hall and $5.47 at McDonald's, both on March 5th. Pretty reasonable for being just 8 days into March.
there we go. So what it responded to me. So here you can see a voice command here is I sent this, and voice didn't pick it up perfectly, but I sent this, and then he responded with that. And the only thing that happened is I made my phone read it, and then it read the response back to me. So it feels like I'm talking to Patch, but all my phone is doing is dictating it and then responding back. So it's able to do that. And then if I go to my spend here and I refresh and I go to patch, I can see that that message cost about 25 cents because it had to aggregate all the data and look up eating out and figure that out. So that is how that worked, and it organized all that. He'll also route to other agents. So if I tell him to like set a reminder for me, so you can see down here, I had him set a reminder, and so he did that, which was pretty good. And those type of things are really cheap. Those are like a couple cents. So if you have other things like an Alexa set up, like a lot of people got on that train, right? I never did. It was never my thing. So is some of this necessary? No. But it works for me and it's fun. So that's what I'm having. I'm having fun. But that is how what my interactions work. And that's how I set up Discord. That's how I set up at this, not having a gateway, not having a computer on all the time. But it works. So what Discord, I send slash command messages, it routes, it pulls in all the relevant context for the agent so it can respond. It has a two mode response to where it can triage and save on token costs for me. And then it also has where I can send it through my phone to where it calls that edge function and it's able to read the response back to me. So That is how I set up my interactions for communication when it comes to my custom OpenClaw setup. I am pretty proud of it and I hope you learned something. So now it's time to dive into some actual use cases. So I'll go through all my different use cases that I have and what my custom OpenClaw setup does.